You are listening to another episode of Powcast.
Welcome to Powcast, the podcast that talks about movies, video games, comics, TV, and everything else nerdy. It's not the only one that does it, but it is the one hosted by us. I'm Will.
I'm Nick.
And happy holidays, everybody, and have a happy new year as we go from 2014 to 2015. But first, before we move on into the new year, we're going to talk about this year, what we liked. Maybe some things what we didn't like, but hopefully what we liked a little bit more as we round up and sum up the year with our top fives and honorable mentions and just thoughts looking back on this year of 2014. I quite enjoyed this year for entertainment. I was telling Nick the other day.
It's been a fun year in many respects. It really has, and I'm looking forward to 2015, but, take some time to reflect on the good year of 2014 is the right thing to do. And
then a lot has changed for us in the past year. Graduation, moving in, getting acclimated, and the infrequency of the podcast as it is kind of reflects that. But, hey, we're trying to make a living. It's not, it's not easy trying to keep up with things that don't make us money all the time, even though as much as we like doing it. And then hopefully as the new year comes by, we will have more satisfactory ways of publishing the podcast. But as we learned quickly that doing that even costs money. Does everything come down to money? I'm a fan of capitalism, but it only works if you have money. And I don't have money.
Yeah.
So anyway... So what should we start with first? Even at the end of the day, we're big on, we talk about everything nerdy, but we're big on movies and comics. So why don't we start with movies first?
Okay.
We're going to start with...
I have a top five. Do you have a top five?
We're going to start with our top five. These are our top five movies of 2014. Go through them, like what we thought, going back and forth. Let's start with how should we do this? Back and forth. What are our fives?
Back and forth.
Okay, so we'll start with five, and then we'll go to our number one. And as always, at least I don't know about you, when we do these lists, it's always kind of like maybe like the top two are like the definite ones, and then the rest are like, at least for me,
I would say
it's
for me, my top three are like the set in stone. Mm-hmm. Actually, my top four. I knew my top four very easily, and then like that fifth film, I had to decide between a couple. So maybe I can even talk about that a little bit.
All right, so why don't we go all the way down to our top five as it is, and then obviously we're going to have honorable mentions as well because especially for me, this was a year that I very, very much enjoyed in terms of movies. I was very happy with all around the board. So let's start with top five. Nick, top five pick of 2014 for movies.
My fifth favorite movie of 2015 or 2014, and as in an addendum too, it's like we're recording this and I still haven't seen everything I want to see. So this is
why don't we start out? What haven't we seen that we wanted to see first, so people know it's like we're not leaving those out.
The big three that I haven't seen that I want to see are Whiplash, Nightcrawler, and The Imitation Game. Mm-hmm. Those are the big three that I think could make a push on this list. And there are other great films coming out for like the Oscar season and then just the end of the year that I might enjoy. But I feel like those three are the ones that in an alternate universe, Earth 612, where I saw those movies, those might be on this list.
Okay, and I think for me. The big ones that I wanted to see that I haven't seen are Foxcatcher, and really, I think that's it. Was there one more? What was another big one?
Possibly.
That was really the only big one that I wanted to see that I hadn't seen. There's a couple other ones that I did want to see this year that I haven't seen. That were just kind of like they came up out of nowhere, like top five, and I know I'm going to see The Hobbit eventually because we're recording before then. But really, Foxcatcher was the only one. Stuff like Imitation Game, Theory of Everything, I hadn't seen. So.
Yeah.
All right, so going on top 5 pick, Nick and Will. Nick first. What's top 5 movie?
My fifth favorite movie of 2014 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. The good GOTG.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
that was in heavy. I will say right now, for honorable mention, it was in heavy competition with David Fincher's Gone Girl for that 5th spot. Gone Girl was a film that I really was uncomfortable with in the theater in a very good way. And initially, it was like, best movie of the year, and then it was one of those movies that still very, very good and still very, very recommended, but just it didn't really stick with me as much as I thought it would, and so it kind of dropped down a little bit, and Guardians just took that spot because, I'm a huge Guardians fan. The film was something I wanted to write, and obviously that didn't come to pass, but I didn't really care, and I just think it's just a really fun movie with a lot of great jokes. I mean, Rocket Raccoon and Groot, probably my 2 favorite characters of the year, or 2 of my favorite characters of the year, and I just think it's like just a really just good time at the movies, and I really enjoyed that, and that's mostly why it sneaks into my top 5. That and my big kind of, I will say, bias towards the Guardians.
Yeah, unfortunately, we weren't able to get our review for the movie up. So just a recap on the movie is that we both absolutely loved it. I saw it 3 times in theaters. How many for you?
I saw it like 4 times in theaters.
Okay, and it was just such a fun movie. And this is coming from 2 people, as you'll see from my top 5 and probably your top 5 as well, is that we're both like huge Marvel fans. So it was just awesome to get this movie. Like, I remember a long time ago when they announced they were going to do Guardians of the Galaxy. And I was like, wait, what's that? And then you were telling me all about it, like how awesome it was, about the comics, by Abnett and Lanning in 2008. And then they released the concept art at Comic-Con about like the what the team was going to look like. And I remember I was excited for everything that they were coming out with Marvel, but that was the one I was like, that's the one I want to see. And then it just I waited for it so long, and it just did not disappoint. It was just so much fun, so funny. It's definitely this movie. What I like about this year, and I'll go more and more, is like this movie had movies that were the definition of blockbusters for me. I think like all around the board, like different types of blockbusters, but in terms of just pure blockbuster, which I think at this point is Marvel is really killing it with the modern day like blockbuster, just going to the theater, having an awesome time, laughing, having some drama, but like not, belittling the audience, not taking itself too seriously, but it was just...
Guardians
awesome.
Did a really good job at that, I think, is kind of having the story that's still at its big stakes, but was ready to poke fun in itself.
It's like, Rocket Raccoon.
Rocket
awesome.
Raccoon is, as I said, when the film came out, I tweeted this out, that Rocket Raccoon is the greatest thing man has ever created, even better than cheese. And that's, to me, that's, maybe it is an exaggeration, because I do think there are a lot of things that man has created, like Dr. Frankenstein. But Rocket Raccoon is just one of those things where it's like, what I love about it is that it's, when you talk about it to people, especially before the movie, just like, oh, it's a talking raccoon that like shoots guns and stuff, like a weapons expert raccoon. Yeah. Like that's weird, that's absurd. But like, what makes Rocket so great is that he's just taken 100% seriously, and that he is one. It's not like the joke is, oh, he's a raccoon. I mean, that's part of it, but the joke is like, oh no, he's his,
Well, it's like you could, like I always say, you can talk about the character without ever mentioning that he's a raccoon.
Yeah. That's like and by the way.
Yeah. And I have not, and to this day, like, I really haven't met anybody who walks out of the movie thinking Rocket and Groot are dumb. Which is funny going in, because that was the biggest thing. It's like, oh, they're making a movie with a talking tree and a raccoon. And that was like the least of everybody's issues, if they had any when they walked out. I mean, like, Chris Pratt has just become MVP of just like movie star. James Gunn did a hell of a year for Chris. James Gunn did wonders with Dave Bautista and Drax. And then it's just with the movie coming out on DVD, it just looks like that. Even the energy and the spirit behind the movie just looks like that's the type of blockbuster you want to make. It looks like so much fun. And I've been a fan of James Gunn, the director, for a long time with Slither, especially Super, which is one of my favorite movies. But it's like, and at the end of the day, is it still on top in America? I believe it is.
As of right this second,
with
the current projections of the weekend estimates, it is.
Yep, Guardians of the Galaxy is what is it? What is it?
Oh, it's in terms of final box office.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
It's it made domestically $332,309.
Marvel's riskiest film. We've had to hear for years about how it was going to be like this bomb, and how it's like, oh, it's fine. They have a comfort zone with Avengers coming out next year. Who would have thought? Like you and me thought that like they're going to do fine. The movie's going to get the money. It's going to do well. Did you expect it to do this well?
No, it's this year's Frozen for me. Because last year, for those who don't know, Frozen was one of the highest grossing movies of all time. And I really just, like, as the movie kept making more and more money, I was just stunned. Mm-hmm. And it was very much the same way. I mean, obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy doesn't make as much money as Frozen did. But it was kind of the same feeling where I was like, the more money it made, the more happy I was, because it meant... Like, for Frozen, it meant, like, oh, Disney animation is really back, and people see that it's really back, and they made this really good movie that's really, affecting a lot of people. And for Guardians, it was like, for me, it was just, the more money it made, the more it made me realize that, like, we're living in a world now where people love Rocket and Groot as much as I did when I was reading Annihilation Conquest. Mm-hmm. And, like, people who are, like, love the Guardians and know the Guardians and want Guardians merchandise and Guardians t-shirts and Guardians toys. And it's like, it's just one of those things where I've been such a fan for Guardians for a long time, and it's important to me because it's what got me back into comics, and it was one of the many, many things that was instrumental in getting me into interested in the entertainment industry. So just to kind of see it, people wanting a sequel and people like, wanting an animated series which is coming out next year. Mm-hmm. It's just really exciting for me as a Guardians fan.
Spawning off two more comics that are pretty good too.
And it makes me excited for, like, as a Marvel fan, because that means, like, okay, so we are going to get, like, Doctor Strange, we are going to get Black Panther, we are going to get Captain Marvel, and these characters are going to have opportunities to be as big as Iron Man, as big as Captain America, as big as Thor, as big as Spider-Man, as big as he
Guardians of the Galaxy was big. It was the biggest. We don't need Iron Man in a movie to make money. No. But anyway, that Guardians of the Galaxy, your number 5, awesome movie. It's just out on DVD for the holiday season. Everybody go! If you have to buy 5 movies this year, which I guess is why I top 5. But if I do think of one of the movies that you should buy if you're a fan of, like, just fun blockbuster movie. Just go get it. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. My number 5, going to go for a little bit of a surprise for me, was David Ayer's Fury, which I ended up seeing because I was home, and my dad really wanted to see this war movie. It looked interesting to me. David Ayer, for those of you who don't know, who's directing Warner Brothers DC's Suicide Squad, I guess in 2016. So I was obviously interested in that. Walked out of it completely happy with it. Just really, really blown away, and really, really surprised by the amount of emotion that's in the movie. Just for a war movie, that movie does not pull any punches with having this moral ambiguity of its characters and just things like that. They really hit home. Really selling these not really likable people as the protagonists, and just really getting down in the layers. And the issues that a lot of people had with it, I didn't really have any big issues with it. I think that I could see some people were saying the ending, because you didn't see it, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it was the movie kind of does one of those things where as the movie progresses, it kind of gets a little bit more movie-ish by like some of the choices the characters make and like the set pieces and stuff. But I mean, you know me, I'm one of the people where it's like I don't get too mad about like historical accuracies like that. I mean, it's a movie. It's like it kind of fit with what was going in, probably not with like the logic of the real world. But I thought like it was just as a pure kind of like cinematic experience and war movie. Like it hits you right in the heart, and I just absolutely loved it. And I personally feel like if you're a fan of war movies, and I can't say like I'm a huge fan of war movies, but I thought like this really showed an interesting dynamic of character. It looked great, good performances, and the end, despite what you think of it, really has you on the edge of your seat. So Fury, directed by David Ayer, is my number 5. All right, number 4 for films. What's your number 4 pick?
Number 4, 2014, is Birdman, the ever-present Birdman, with Michael Keaton, Edward Norton, Emma Stone.
Which would go in my honorable mentions.
Yes.
So it's like I was like really like
this is going to be a weird thing to say because we still have 3 films to go.
Yeah.
But the first 2 acts of Birdman are my favorite movie of the year. I think the first 2 acts of Birdman, to me, really speak to me. I love Edward Norton in this movie. I love him overall. I think he's a great actor that sometimes I think gets underrated because of other stuff in his life, but like he's really good. This is by far Emma Stone's best performance of all time.
And for those just who are listening, slight spoilers. We're not going to get into details about the movie, but for like any of these movies or any of these things, like we're not going to like really get into detail about it, but we may say 1 or 2 things like if you're really that sensitive to spoilers. But anyway, go ahead.
And Michael Keaton also knocks it out of the park. And it's just like the single shot nature I loved, and like to me personally, what really made the movie work for me is how that single shot. It's like seems like it's a single shot. If you haven't seen it, and what's great for me is like I liked how it just turned the movie into a series of vignettes with all these a series of sketches with all these characters. Like, you know, you'd have, like, a scene with Michael Keaton and Edward Norton, and then you'd follow Edward Norton out. You'd have a scene with Edward Norton and his wife, and then you'd follow his wife out, and then you'd have another scene, and it's, like, kind of trying to explore all these characters in that way. And we just have a very interesting protagonist in Michael Keaton, someone who's struggling to escape his blockbuster past and be, like, the real actor he wanted to be, quote-unquote, the real actor, while also kind of, like, going a bit crazy.
Well, that was the thing, like I told you, that I really like, because I also really like Birdman. I would put in my top 10 of the year if we were doing a top 10, but it's definitely up there, one of my favorite movies this year. And that was the one thing I liked about it, was that it was definitely a movie that I think I was going to be more annoyed with people's and like analysis of it. Like I think like people would kind of go out of it with a very narrow minded of what the message of the movie was. But what I liked about the movie is that it does not pull punches on the entertainment industry as a whole. Like it knocks blockbusters, it knocks indie films, it knocks celebrities, it knocks like theater actors. Like it really it shows the glamour of all those things, but it also demonstrates the hypocrisies of all those things. Like it was like across the board. It did not really side with one over the other. And then what I said to you after we saw it, what I liked a lot about it is that at the end of the day, it kind of just showed how it's all kind of BS. It's the entertainment industry.
Everything about the entertainment industry like is good and bad.
Yeah.
It really is like there is no right answer. There is no right answer. Like Hollywood sucks, Hollywood's great. Indies suck, Indies great. Theater sucks, theater's great. It's like everything is true. It's like the Schrodinger's cat of truth.
Now that the one thing I will say about it, because we didn't really get to talk about it too much and record it, was that I think that was the only thing for me is that it didn't necessarily fall flat, but the things that kept it from the pedestal I would put it on would be the exploration of the side characters, which I think technically and directed very brilliantly done, but it was just the Michael Keaton and a lot of the Ed Norton stuff, but the Michael Keaton aspect was just so awesome, and he was just so good in the movie that it was like the other things were kind of like, all right, that's fine, but I kind of want to see more of the Michael Keaton stuff.
I can see that.
So like the Emma Stone and Norton stuff kind of was like a man to me. Like that was the kind of stuff like, all right, get back to Michael Keaton. Though I do agree that I think Emma Stone delivers the best performance that she
Emma Stone was one of those people that I always felt had like this really high potential, just in the stuff that like when like even like going back to like Superbad and Easy A, I was just like this actress who could like really make it big, like who was just starting out, and I just felt like she never had the role that really allowed her to just go crazy with her ability, and this is it. Like that was one of the big things I took out when I first saw the movie, just like completely just blown away by her performance.
Yeah, Birdman is awesome.
What keeps it out of the top three, as I said, it's first 2/3 favorite movie.
Ending's weird. Ending's a little weird.
I mean, the ending is a little too surreal.
Yeah.
Which the movie has other surreal parts that really work, but it's just like it feels like a movie that needed a definite end as opposed to a surreal end. And the side characters that I liked a lot just completely get lost in the third act. And it's just like it's just like those two things you can't ignore. So it's like that's what keeps it out. But I really love it. I really love the humor. I love the style. There's some really like great scenes. Some of my favorite scenes in cinema this year.
This movie had my favorite scene of this year, which was the scene with the critic. Which for people who see it, that's my favorite scene this year.
One of my favorite scenes of the year is Emma Stone's big monologue. I love that scene, and I also love the walk and talk to the bar of Michael Keaton and Edward Norton.
And I also also probably one of like this is like in just if I had to like a scene this year is obviously the scene when Michael Keaton's in the Birdman outfit, because throughout the movie he's talking to the Birdman celebrity persona of him, and that was absolutely probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, and I just loved it.
And then when the Birdman finally makes his appearance, it doesn't disappoint.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So all right, so that's your top four. My top four: Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Which, we overlap a lot in this list. I know it's a lot higher for you. I mean, it's in my top 5. Captain America, The Winter Soldier. If I said Guardians of the Galaxy is one movie that defines what I think a blockbuster should be, Captain America is the other side of that. Captain America is just a pure, fun, solid, and just engaging action movie. It is just, if you want an action movie now, Captain America: The Winter Soldier is it, I think, for a big more spectacle based action movie like that. It was this was another movie that I think you were looking forward to a little bit more than I was. Both of us are a huge fan of the comic book series, the arc with the Winter Soldier. And it was one of those things where as it came along, and I think you saw it a little bit earlier than I did.
I had a screening of it, yeah.
And then I was hearing a little bit of things about it, and Captain America has never been one of my favorite characters until the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's really the Cinematic Universe Captain America is probably my favorite iteration of the character. Brew Baker is probably my favorite, but this was the first time I'm like, oh, Captain America is my favorite Avenger. But the more and more that was coming out about this movie, I was like, oh, this could be something good. And then I was just where do you start with it? It's awesome protagonist. Black Scarlett Johansson is great as Black Widow. I think the unsung hero, the best part about the movie, personally, is Anthony Mackie as the Falcon. I just think they struck gold. Every now and then, Marvel always casts well, but there's one character I think they strike gold with. I think they did a really good job with the Winter Soldier. I thought getting Robert Redford was awesome, but if I had to pick one character that just knocked it out of the park, I think it was Anthony Mackie. Just the nuances in his character, he just felt he felt like Sam Wilson, the Falcon. So that was just awesome. The fighting was probably easily the best action choreography I've seen in a superhero movie. Just that was another part. I was at the edge of my seat in the theater was the Captain America Bucky fights. Spoilers. The Winter Soldier. We'll get it out of the way. You should know.
We already did a movie review of this movie.
Winter Soldier.
If you haven't heard that,
but wasn't that great? Is because being comic book fans, we knew that all the way. Captain America 1, the first Avenger. So in the theater, it's so awesome that there's still a good amount of people that when they reveal who the Winter Soldier is, people are like, yeah. So that was kind of a good feeling. But what else can I say? What else is there to say about Captain America: Winter Soldier? It's awesome.
I'll say a little bit more later.
Yeah,
I'll have my spiel on the movie a little later.
It wasn't. We watched it. You got it on DVD, and we watched it. And all I could think was in the third act. And I know some people have an issue with Marvel's third act, but I could tell you, with the whole Falcon flying and them going from ship to ship and fighting, all I could think is this is cool. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love having that feeling in movies, which people will see about the rest of the top 5 of my movies, which people may not agree with, but bear with us. All right, going to top 3. Let's move the train along.
My number 3 is Richard Linklater's Boyhood.
Okay. Right. Boyhood was another movie I did not see this year. I just did not get a chance.
So for those of you who don't know what Boyhood is this 12-year project by film director Richard Linklater, in that he cast a bunch of people. He cast a kid, he cast Patricia Arquette, and Ethan Hawke, and a couple other people. And he would basically film a couple scenes every year or every 2 years. And then the movie's about the growing up of this boy from middle school all the way up to being a freshman in college. And what's great about it in that sense is you see the boy character, the main boy, actually grow up in front of you. And it's not different actors playing him at different ages. It's the actual kid growing up. And what really struck me when I was thinking about what made my favorite movies of the year and why each one affected me so much. Boyhood is an exercise in nostalgia, which I have a mixed relationship with nostalgia. But Boyhood makes it work in the sense that what makes it work is the way it was shot, because it isn't I'm shooting in 2014 and remembering what was important in 2006. No, it's actually we shot this in 2006. So every song you're hearing, every video game you're seeing, everything happening in the world, it's these characters who don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years. And it's a movie that's about how the friends we have in middle school suddenly just disappear from our lives, and how the music we like in middle school just changes, and the ways in which our lives affect our pop culture senses, how our lives affect who we are. And it really is just a beautiful exercise in the reflection of what life is, in the sense that you're really looking at a kid growing up, and you're thinking about how you grow up and how the things that happened in your life, what you liked in 6th grade, what you liked in 8th grade, what you liked in high school.
That aspect of the movie does sound cool, in terms of what you kind of see in each of these, in each portion of the film, in terms of the time period. And
the best example of this, 100%, is there's this scene, I think, that takes place probably around 2008, 2009, where the main kid and Ethan Hawke, his divorced father, or not, he's not divorced, but the father's divorced, go on this camping trip, and they're just kind of fooling around and catching up and having all this life advice. And there's just a scene of them where they're talking about, do you think they'll ever make another Star Wars movie? And just even at that time, it's no, you think they're done. Revenge of the Sith was it. And then it's just the fact that it happened to come out in 2014, when we know that there's a bunch of new Star Wars stuff coming. It makes it I remember having thoughts like that. It's an era of even just seeing him go from from a GameCube to an Xbox.
Well, I was going to ask, is GameCube in it?
I think GameCube, it's GameCube makes a little appearance, and then it's GameCube, and then it goes to the Xbox, Wii, PS2 stuff. But how that changes and stuff like that.
Well, eventually I will see it then.
It's a really just interesting reflection on that aspect of it.
Awesome. So Boyhood. Richard Linklater.
Yeah.
My number 3, and this is going to be the one that people don't take me seriously on. I don't care. I loved it. I love the movie. Was Godzilla. Like, you know how much I like Godzilla. I don't know. Every now and then, there's this and another movie on my top 5 that every now and then a movie just works for you. It just does. And this movie worked for me. I do believe that Gareth Edwards, director of the indie movie Monster, who I think is a great director. I think that despite some of the issues that I did have with this movie, there were certain aspects of it that just knock it out of the park that I don't even care about that stuff. But I think despite some of the issues, Gareth Edwards directed an awesome movie. And hopefully will continue to in his Star Wars spinoff. But this movie, to me, was a modern day monster movie, I thought. Like, if you were to put a monster movie into the lens of modern day and take a lot of the same, like, pacing and tropes and stuff, it all worked for me because I'm a huge Godzilla fan. And it's funny, what's really funny about the Godzilla movies is that I like the Godzilla, like the original Godzilla, like the 52 Godzilla. I do not hold it up to like I don't call it like the best guy. Like, to me, like, Godzilla is kind of what Godzilla became, like the whole like destroy city, fight monster thing. Mm-hmm. That's the Godzilla I like. So this movie, despite taking some turns, again, spoilers, what they do with Bryan Cranston's character, Aaron Taylor Johnson probably not bringing it as much as he could to sometimes an annoying degree. Ken Watanabe, you can make a drinking game out of him staring everywhere, but the aspect of this film that I absolutely loved is the monsters and Godzilla and the sound and the scope and the size and the fighting and the scale of everything was just this experience that people are always saying they had with Gravity or to a certain extent Interstellar, was that this was kind of like, and maybe this appeals more to me, was that's the type of visceral experience I had with the movie. And I'm right, because you
oh no,
like the movie too.
Absolutely. I was a big fan of it, and it this is going to sound worse than I'm intending it to, but like it made me understand why people love the Godzilla franchise so much. Like that, the respect for the Godzilla franchise. I had seen a couple movies with you. I think maybe even after the movie came out, when you were doing your Godzilla.
30 Godzilla movies. 30.
Yeah,
it's insane.
And like, I enjoy them, and there were definitely aspects that were very interesting. But like, I was like, it's Will's kind of Will's
that's
thing.
my thing. Yeah,
and for me, it's like that first appearance of Godzilla in the movie, like the first time you actually see him. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the moment I like geeked out, and I was like, man, I can understand. Mm-hmm. I can just understand like what's so cool about Godzilla and the Godzilla franchise. Like, even those are original Japanese films, it's like, I think it did a great job of getting me invested, and maybe like the main story is not the greatest thing in the world, but it really worked for what it was.
It is one of those things where it's like, and I'm not trying to say like it's like comparable to like something like Jaws or Alien. I'm not saying that, but it does tap into that. It's a very rare aspect where your tone and your style and your feeling of the movie kind of carries the movie, let's say, more than let's say more of the primary cast. And I think you kind of lose something with the primary cast with what happens with Bryan Cranston. But in this case, it works for me because then I think I bring the baggage of it's a Godzilla movie. So it's kind of like, at my point, like, how everybody's like, why it's like, the characters and the humans are so, and then I'm just like, I don't even care. I just want to see Godzilla. So I have a little bit of that attitude towards it, but the movie just absolutely worked for me. I really liked it. And I get a sequel in a couple years. Toho's making a new Godzilla. Like, Godzilla's back, baby. And I just absolutely, I just loved it. I loved the movie. I thought it just completely worked for me.
It's definitely one of the top blockbusters of the year.
Yeah. And you know what? And this was a reason, and I don't argue too much with people who don't like it, because this was the reason I liked it so much, was because it wasn't the Godzilla movie I expected it to be. Like, in terms of, like, what they did, like, how they portrayed the character of Godzilla being more of the force in nature, being more of a secondary character than I thought he was going to be. And because the movie took that risk, especially for a big blockbuster, like, with a recognizable name like Godzilla, it took a risk with doing something a little bit different than I thought it was. And I understand that doesn't work for some people, and they're fine with that, but that's why it completely worked for me. So that's my number 3. Top 2, we're gonna cross over on this one. Once again, your top 2.
My second favorite movie of this year is Captain America, The Winter Soldier. And Captain America, The Winter Soldier is my favorite superhero movie of all time. I like it better than the Avengers. I like it better than The Dark Knight.
That's a bold statement. No, it's not bold. It's easily in my top 5 superhero movies.
The top 2 very much are similar for me in the sense that my favorite movies are the ones that stick with me. And Captain America: The Winter Soldier is the film I saw most in theaters this year. Saw it 6 times in theaters.
Nice.
And I just can't get enough of it. I think I love the timing of it in terms of its kind of, maybe not its political message or kind of what it explores, this kind of surveillance and the constant knowing of everything, the secrets that everybody has. I think what really drives this movie for me, weirdly enough, is Black Widow. Black Widow is the person that, like, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I really didn't care about pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And even, like, Iron Man 2 is like, okay, they're doing, Black Widow.
She was always kind of that character where it's like, well, I guess, like, that she'll be in the Avengers because, like, at the time, it's like, to be honest, with the exception of, like, Scarlet Witch or some other characters, it was kind of like, all right, kind of like the girl Avenger, the one who wasn't Wasp or Scarlet Witch.
But, like, Avengers really got me interested in her character. And then Captain America, The Winter Soldier just blew me away. Like, the conversation that she and Steve have in the car when they're driving up to the fort, just, like, to me, like, it was like that was the reason enough for me to keep seeing the movie for some reason. Like, I just really just loved the relationship they had in this movie. Again, like, not the romantic relationship, but the ones that just, like, we're these two people in this world of lies that really sometimes don't know who we are. It's like, that's, like, Steve Rogers in this movie doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know if he wants to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. He doesn't know if he wants to be a soldier. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Black Widow is someone whose whole life is she doesn't know who she is at any given time. And, like, the way that they connected that together, I just really, really got to me. I love Robert Redford. The fighting was just, I agree with you, some of the best fighting I've ever seen in a superhero movie. And the Russos, man, like, they nailed the direction, they nailed the tone. And the thing is, like, what I loved most about Winter Soldier is it felt like something new. Like, because we've talked about how, like, a superhero movie doesn't just have to be a superhero movie. And sometimes people focus on that. And I think, like, Winter Soldier, to me, is, like, the first movie that really gets to that, like, this is how, like, a superhero movie can be another genre. It's a movie that's right out of the 70s political culture. It really is, like, 3 Days of the Condor and Parallax and all that sort of stuff. And I think just, like, how that tone mixes and the Robert Redford stuff and the Anthony Mackie stuff, it just all came together to a movie that I just can't stop watching. And movies that I can't stop watching are my favorite movies. So I really just love Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And it's just images from the movie still stick in my head sometimes. I'll just think about stuff about it, and it's great.
I mean, what he said. It's
just a fabulous...
No, it's just a fun
and it really
movie.
is. It's like, it's the movie, too, I will agree with you on this, that was, like, Captain America's my favorite Avenger.
Yeah.
And, like, there are 100% great casting in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Chris Evans as Captain America, as Steve Rogers, is just the most perfect thing in the world. He just nails it.
I agree. And this is coming from somebody who was not too happy when they initially cast him way back when. But yeah, I mean, what you have to say about Cap, and then me, number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, it's just a movie, like, a lot of this year was movies, they must have just read my mind. It's like, hey, what do you want to see, Will? And they made those movies this year. They made a Godzilla movie, huge Godzilla fan. They made a comedic space adventure movie. that had aliens as main characters in it. Because that's a big deal with me. That's a big deal. Like, the one thing I always say about Groot and Rocket Raccoon is, like, a lot of movies in the past, like, if they have, like, a CGI character, they have to, like, a lot of times cut corners with it. Like, that maybe it's like, all right, well, it's like he hasn't had any screen time for a while. Groot and Rocket, man, are on the screen, full force there. Their characters, there's really only one human being from Earth, and that's Peter Quill, a.k.a. Star-Lord, a.k.a. Chris Pratt, a.k.a. about to be in Jurassic Park. But it was just awesome. It's a movie that, you're right, you absolutely hit it with Cap. It just sticks with you. At least for me, it stuck with me after the movie. Like, even with my nitpicks about it, like, I walked out, I was like, who am I kidding? Like, that movie was awesome. It's funny. Way funnier than I thought it was going to be. It's all cosmic. It's space. I love it, and it's just a juxtaposition of humor and drama and space and cosmic, like, nonsense. And it's subversing tropes, and it's just, again, we got to move on to the other thing. But number 2 was Guardians of the Galaxy. Your number 1 pick of the year.
My number 1 favorite movie of 2014.
No pressure.
Is Foxcatcher.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even know this. This is a scoop, ladies and gentlemen. I did not know this. Continue.
As I said before, movies that have images that stick with me really are my favorite movies. And, like, for last year, it's like Inside Llewyn Davis, her 2 favorite movies of last year, because those 2 movies just had something that just stuck with me, where I wake up in the morning and I do my morning routine and I take a shower and I think about my day, and then all of a sudden an image would pop up. Mm-hmm. This year, that's Foxcatcher for me.
All right.
Foxcatcher, and it has to do somewhat with the brilliant direction by Bennett Miller, the brilliant cinematography, the dread that kind of hangs over the whole movie, the unbelievable true story, a really dark true story, but, like, just, like, having that knowledge, like, this actually happened, and looking it up afterwards and looking up the like, the kind of actual, like, news stuff about the story is, like, wow, like, it really captured it. The acting is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Steve Carell knocks it out of the park. Channing Tatum knocks it out of the park. Mark Ruffalo has huge hands in this movie, but just
plays the Hulk, dude.
Yeah, he completely just obliterates it. Like, absolutely a fantastic performance. And, like, there's just this really interesting exploration of the desire for success and how it is different for all of us and how it can just so negatively impact our lives. The relationship between Steve Carell's character, John Dupont, and Channing Tatum's character just evolves into this really just kind of terrifying relationship. And the way that Mark Ruffalo gets involved is also just adds to all this kind of, like, really big tension of just, like, even if you don't know what happens at the end, you don't know the results of this true story, you just know that at some point it's all going to blow up. Because it's just, like, even from the first time that Steve Carell and Channing Tatum meet, it's like, this isn't going to work out, but it's like they're going to try. Because Channing Tatum's character wants to... Because the basic story is that Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo are gold medal winning Olympics, Olympic wrestlers. But Mark Ruffalo's character, Dave, is the more famous one. Right. He's the one that's, like, kind of the trainer. He's the one that gets more attention. And so when Mark, Channing Tatum's character, gets an opportunity from John Dupont to train privately and be part of John Dupont's team, Mark takes that opportunity to try to escape his brother's shadow, and that's his whole goal for the movie: is try to be, like, the better brother, to be the more famous brother.
Wait, but I'm gonna interrupt you real quick because I really want to know, because I didn't really hear you talk too much about it. Steve Carell, I want to talk about him. Like, how is he in a movie? Because one of the things I am always fascinated with, and I like this a little better, is when comedic actors go in to do drama. And when classic dramatic actors go in to do comedy, because I just think it's just a lot more entertaining to me. I mean, obviously they're good at whatever they do, but I want to hear about
Steve Carell is a frightening man, which he needs to be. And someone joked about how I think it might have been Carell himself that, like, Steve Carell is just playing another really bad boss.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it's kind of like taking the things a little bit from like the Michael Scotts of the world,
Mm-hmm.
of just like kind of being this kind of unaware person who's really kind of concerned about what they're thinking or what they're doing, but kind of turns it on this like kind of scary edge where it's like, just like with both Steve Carell and with Channing Tatum, you know with both of them there's something off.
Right.
There's something that's going to crack at some point. And Bennett Miller just beautifully demonstrates that throughout the whole movie. And like Mark Ruffalo's character is the stable one,
Mm-hmm.
but he's the one that kind of gets caught up in all this mess. And it's just like my favorite image of the year
Mm-hmm.
comes from Foxcatcher.
Awesome. I'm sorry I didn't see it. I did not know it was going to be that high.
I'm
awesome.
a huge fan of the film.
Awesome. So to wrap up the movie portion, and then we're going to have to rush through some of the other stuff, but that's fine. We love movies. I love this movie so much, and that is the movie that's made out of bricks. Everything is awesome. It's the Lego Movie. I have the movie on Blu-ray. I watched it the other day, and it's one of those movies where it's just like you ever watch a movie, and it's just your opinion just doesn't change on it.
That's me in Disney movies all the time. Yeah.
This was that movie I saw. I was looking for it. I remember a long time ago, my history with this movie is that you told me it's like, hey, I think you said Liam Neeson's going to be in this Lego movie or something like that. Or you said Will Arnett's playing Batman in this Lego movie. And I was like, okay. I thought it was some throwaway, like, straight to DVD. It's like, okay, Will Arnett's giving his voice. I mean, Will Arnett was in The Nut Job, so it's like, of course, like, maybe probably would do that. And then I looked at the cast list. It's like Morgan Freeman, Liam Neeson is in this. I was like, oh, this sounds like legit. And then the first trailer came out, and I was like, what? For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge Lego person. I grew up on Lego. I just love Lego, and then the first big bit of it I saw was at Comic-Con. They had a Hall H demonstration for it, and then I came back raving about I think like this movie is going to be something very special. I thought like this is going to stand out. This is like it's not going to be like a throwaway movie. At least like this movie's going to be good. It's going to be awesome because everything is awesome. Movie is coming out. I'm looking forward to it, but I did not expect to like it as much as I did. When I say I love this movie, I love this movie because it's good. The animation style, I love the animation style. I think the cinematography on it, and just the lighting and the technology
very
they had to
underrated looking movie.
Yeah, I think so.
The way that they really, I mean, like even just seeing a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff about it, just the way they captured the Lego look, and just like the way they animated it.
Yeah,
because like I think
they had to come up with like a software to so all the Legos have the limitations.
Like one of the things that I think a lot of people take for granted with animation is how hard it is to do. And the Lego Movie is like Lego Movie and like Big Hero 6, which is another one that came out this year,
right,
are two movies that like really look good, and I think people will take granted how good they look. When you got to remember, it was only a couple years ago in The Incredibles when it was like a big technological feat that they could get Violet's hair to not stand up on its own, and it's like now we're just having these really like intricate like animated
well, you're right.
shots.
It's like doing normal stuff in animation is already hard.
Like doing just
now
like traditional drawn animation is really difficult.
And then so it's like you even doing stuff like hair is hard. And now like, all right, now we want to put nanobots in it, or now we want everything to look and feel like a stop motion Lego movie.
Like now we want like the sea to like look like a bunch of Lego bricks.
Yeah,
like doing waves. And it's like, why do you do that?
Yeah, it's just like, and everything, and I mean everything is made out of Lego in the movie. The cast is brilliant. It's another knockout performance by Chris Pratt. But everybody, like even you said, you started liking the movie even more when the secondary characters like Charlie Day and Alison Brie's character and
like for me,
Batman Will Arnett is easily in like it's got to be in the top Batmans that I've seen. Like I just watched it the other day, and it's just like Will Arnett, he kills it as Batman in this movie, like that type of Batman. And it's a movie that for me, for an animated movie, like it's one that has like a joke every minute, and I laugh at 90% of them. But the thing about the movie that it was like, there's a moment when the movie, for me, turns from a good movie to a great movie, and it's the ending, which wasn't as controversial as I thought it would be. Like, there's some people who kind of have their thoughts about it, but for the most part, everybody's kind of like, oh no, the movie's awesome. Like, oh, that part's kind of weird, but I thought like that was going to be the polarizing bit of the movie. And you know what? Spoilers. I'm just going to talk about it. There's a part at the end of the movie where Emmett, the main Lego character, he sacrifices himself and he ends up in the real world. Now, when this happens, I was like, oh no, I don't know about this, because I was like, the movie just kind of like went from being like, oh, okay, it's good, but that was so completely unnecessary. But it touches upon this small little story that I think parallels perfectly with what's going on with like the rest of the movie, with like this little kid and his father who owns like the Lego world that the main story is based off of, and it emphasizes, because I never felt that it was like, oh, it's just reiterating the themes explicitly. I always saw it as giving another level and understanding to the themes, because the movie, if you look at it, which I always talk about with some people, it's like a giant, big businesses are bad, we get it, but this whole real life segment not only adds a little bit more comedy to it, but also adds another personal human level to it, which I really like. And to be honest, like, that scene personally affects me in ways that I don't want to get into the podcast, which is the reason it gets on me. But I cannot watch that movie without tearing up at the end. Nick has seen it with me. Every time Nick's seen it with me. A little watery eye from me.
Absolutely.
I
will confirm that.
Yeah, Phil Lord, Chris Miller, yeah.
I get that mixed up all the time.
Yeah, directors of the 21 Jump Street movies. Knock it out of the park. I absolutely love this movie. And it's a movie that, you know how they say, like, oh, it's for everyone. I think that this is a movie that you like, everybody can enjoy if you want, like, if you're down for, like, just having fun. Like, this is easily the most fun I had at a theater this year in terms of just sitting back, laughing, and just having an emotional punch at the end that just, especially if you're a Lego kid, and there's just certain themes and just morals and stuff that just hit home, I think.
I definitely enjoy. I'm a fan. I was a fan of the ending too. I thought that was a very creative means of kind of wrapping up the film. Mm-hmm. And you kind of said it. Like, I'm a bigger fan of this movie's second half than the first half. Mm-hmm. But no, it's a very, very solid movie. I would say right now it's the favorite for the animation Oscar. Mm-hmm. Just because nothing else animation-wise is really... There's been good animated films this year, but nothing's really blown out of the water. But yeah, no, Lego Movie probably competes to be in my top 10.
So that's our top 5. That took a lot long. We'll probably not get too much. We're probably not going to be able to get to the comics of the year. But let's talk about some of the. We have like a couple more minutes to talk about some other honorable mentions of the year.
I can just quickly run through my top 3 comics of the year, unless you want to do like a different podcast.
Well, let's see. Just some more honorable mentions. I want to get this out of the way for movies. Birdman, obviously. This is going kind of into my top 10. Birdman, Nightcrawler, a movie I really liked a lot. If you're down for, if you want to have in October when it comes to Halloween, if you want a midnight movie, search up Kevin Smith's Tusk. If you're into very absurd, violent like comedy. And just dark humor. It's just an absurd, twisted movie. Whiplash is also really good. And what did you have any?
I think the other one I can think of, I really liked Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, however you want to put it. I mean, that's basically kind of what I've seen that really comes to mind as like really honorable mention for the top. You know, I enjoyed Big Hero 6. I enjoyed things like 22 Jump Street and Lego Movie. You know, that's basically kind of what I would say. I'm
just looking at just any other. And how could I forget another big kind of like really awesome like summer movie Dawn of the Planet of the Apes,
Yes,
which you did not see. That is that's just another great movie. Very emotional, very good. Like I said, Whiplash. Gone Girl is another one that I really like.
I said, kind of right outside my top 5.
And you know what? And for those of you who just want if you're on a Friday or Saturday night and you're with friends, don't have anything to do, want to see a cool action movie, go see John Wick. Yeah, it's like this year. In order to wrap it up, maybe we'll record something else for the comics, but I just want to talk about the movies for a little bit. I was a huge fan of this year. I thought this year, for me, around the board, just really was a good variety of different types of movies. You have great blockbuster movies. You have great comedies. I thought you have a solid. I thought you had a solid, serviceable portion of animated films. That was probably, I think, maybe not the strongest element of the year. But you have like indie films, you have art house films, you have blockbuster films, and each one of those, which I like about them, are all different. Even some of them, like I said, like blockbusters like Godzilla I thought took a big chance in how it told that movie. So like that's kind of like what I thought about the year roundup. Like what are your thoughts on the year? Kind of just looking back on it.
It was a fun year for film. Mm-hmm. I'd say I like 2013 a little bit more personally for movies that I kind of like.
Locke was another movie, by the way, I thought was really good. I think one of my favorite Tom Hardy performances.
But overall, I felt like this year was just very, very solid. Very, very solid. You kind of got it. A lot of good movies for a lot of different types of people, whether you like the blockbusters, whether you like kind of the Oscar stuff in the fall. There's a lot of options. But I actually think that that's kind of the case every year, and I think that every year we kind of talk about like, oh, there's these great blockbusters, and there's these great... You know,
but then I will say about this year...
Then the next year we're all back to like, oh man, Hollywood sucks, and then we just like...
But this year I will say is like what I do like about this year is that, unlike last year, there are way too many movies I want to own on DVD this year. Like, I mean, there's 20 movies that I want on Blu-ray right now. Like, if I could have the chance, I had the money, I would want them all. That's me. We have 5 minutes left. We're going on to 2015 with movies. What are we looking forward to the most? Right, let's just run down them. Oh, come on! We know. Right. The one, you got Star Wars. I'll go down my list. We got Star Wars. I think for me it's Age of Ultron, Star Wars. I'm looking forward to Inside Out. I wasn't exactly sold with the last trailer they put out. I think the trailer is awesome, but it kind of like I kind of am looking. I want to know a little bit more of like what the movie is. But you know what I mean.
I will say this because I was just having a really bad brain fart, so that's why I kind of had a little bit of a pause there. But from what I saw, I won't spoil it, but like what I saw from Inside Out at D23 Expo, which is one of the things I'm really looking forward to in 2015. It's going to be the most insane D23 Expo of probably the 3 that I've gone to, or the 3 that I will go to. There's a lot you'll like about Inside Out. I think like there's a lot of crossover, kind of like what the Lego Movie does, and like what Inside Out's gonna try to be. And if they can really pull it off, like we saw the full scene of the one in the trailer, but just some of the other scenes they kind of teased of like the other parts of the brain and body that they go to in the movie, I think like is just hysterical, very creative, very comical. Star Wars, obviously, Age of Ultron, obviously.
Another movie I'm looking forward to next year is The Kingsman. I'm really looking forward to that.
Solid beginning of the year film.
Because I just think like I like with Matthew Vaughn, and it just kind of looked like I'm into that, like, let's just have fun type of movie, and that's kind of what that looks like. And movies I'm most curious about next year, or I want to see how they turn out, are Chappie, Neil Blomkamp's movie. He's kind of like on rocky territory right now, and I really want to see how the Peanuts movie turns out. Like you and me, we like the Peanuts Christmas special, and I love the animation in it thus far, and I just kind of want to see where that movie goes.
I'll be interested to see how Ant-Man turns out.
Oh yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Ant-Man. I'm not worried about it as much as other people.
No, I'm not worried either about it. It's going to be very... I'm going to be interested to see like what the story is. And like what if the main conflict's going to be something big or something small.
No pun intended. Anyway, those are the movies of 2014. Hopefully we'll be able to get something else with like the comics and some other stuff. But anyway, those movies, I recommend all those movies that we mentioned thus far. If we didn't mention them, don't go see them. Never mind. You go see whatever you want. This was a good year. But as we move into 2015, until next time, I'm Will.
I'm Nick, and now to get to Nick's professional wrestling matches of the year. Wait, are we out of time?
Yeah, I think we're not doing that.